Break everything down to its simplest component and no further.
What is up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Ries, where we talk about best-selling books and their best principles to help you out with your best life. I am your co-host, Coach Willie Blake. I also have our other co-host, Mr. Ian Sturmer, with us, and the founder of Champion Circle, Mr. John Kovacs Jr. And today we're jumping into the second episode of The Lean Startup by Ries. And today we're talking about a really cool topic for anyone who has too much on their plate and wondering how in the world do we get things started. We're talking about simplifying it. We're talking about scraping everything off except the barest of minimum, because we are talking today about how to really make it lean. And if we were to define lean, and I'm not sure how Eric defines lean, but when I think of lean, I think of like lean meat, where it's barely any fat, very just like straight what the meat is. It has, I guess that's basically what it means. Just keeping it like super what it is. Super just like, don't have to put the sprinkles on the cupcake or the frosting. It's just like, boom. The product, the service, the thing at hand, no fluff added to it. That's what I think about Lean Startup. And so let's start this discussion of like what needs to be in place just as a starting point to start. I know, Ian, you were sharing an example at the beginning. I want to turn it right over to you to start just this awesome discussion.
Yeah. So that idea of lean, what is the core that you need to do? All of us as entrepreneurs, we have this grand vision of where we want to be in the end. I'm going to use the example of Google, which now controls most of the universe. But when they started, they said, we are a search engine. That means we need to find the best way to help people find information on the internet. And to do that, they took everything off of their page, so it would be the fastest page out there, because the internet was really slow back then. Everyone else just covered their page with ads to make money. But Google said, no, we are a search engine. We want to get people to find the best results the fastest way they can. That's all people wanted. And they created just that. They probably had a vision of how they would control the universe later on, but they started with that bare minimum. As we look at our business, we need to stop and say, okay, what do we really do? What is the simple core of what we do? And let's build that. Then we can add the frosting, the everything else. A restaurant that starts out with one item because that's their item. And at the risk of just continuing on with examples, in the book, he talks about Groupon. And I think that's really the ultimate example of this. They had this idea of coupons for all sorts of things people could access and do that. And they started out with one offer for a buy one, get one free pizza that happened to be downstairs from their office. So they printed a paper flyer, stuck it in the window, posted it to the telephone pole, and started their business. A flyer in the window with one offer. But that was the minimum viable product. And that's the key phrase from this section, minimum viable product. What is the smallest thing you can put out that will be a proof of concept of your business? Let's see if it works before we spend $1 million on an ad campaign. Before we do phase 7, let's get phase 0.5. The world today is all about 2.0. What's the web 2.0? What's our business 2.0? What's me 2.0? What's me 0.5? What's the business 0.5? And let's start from there. Let's see if it works. And then we can, the sky's the limit after that, unless you're an astronaut, in which case the sky is just the beginning and the limit goes way beyond that.
Yeah, for sure. Like paralysis by analysis can truly destroy the entrepreneur's ability to take action. And that's because there's so much out there. And I don't want to discourage dreamers from dreaming, because that's where the creativity comes from. I mean, Napoleon Hill talks about the imagination and how it is powerful enough to create action. And that's what it's supposed to do. But when you think in terms of like, oh, I can't wait till the water fountain spits out Gatorade at our office, like when you think that stuff through, but then it becomes part of your steps and action, it takes you away from what needs to happen. And I love the example of Groupon, following the book and the example of Facebook. I remember it was either a photo or a meme, and you never know, it could have been AI, but I saw this powerful, it was pretty impactful photo of I think it was Jeff Bezos at one of those pop-up card tables with a huge PC and one modem, and then on the wall was a handwritten sign that said Amazon, and it had like a little smiley face driven or whatever drawn underneath it. And I remember looking at that and being like, day one, right? Every day has got to be like day one. You got to focus on what you have, not what you will have, but what you have, and then create moving there. And when it honestly reminds me of like, if you shift your mindset from, okay, great, today we have all of our ducks in a row. I just like literally imagine placing ducks, in a line. We have all of our ducks in a row, and we have everything we need. Now, what do we need to do? And instead of thinking that way, like flip your mindset over and say, you just got knocked down. Okay. And in the famous words of Les Brown, if you learn to fall facing up, because if you can look up, you can get up. So you just got knocked down, and the only thing to do is to get up, and you got to get up without getting hit again. What's the first thing you got to do? You got to start thinking in a defensive way as well as an offensive way, because you don't always get the ball. You don't always get the offense. You don't always get the upper hand. And if you think from a backhand or a lesser hand functionality, then you start thinking a little bit more creatively and a little bit more lean. Like, I have what I need. Everything's already inside me. I just need more people, or I need more sales. And that's what it really comes down to. I just love that example.
I'm with you. There's what was the hat brand? There's a hat brand called or I guess they're still out there, Von Dutch. At the beginning of when they started everything, you mentioned start with what you have. They had a lot of hats when they were starting out, but nobody was buying them. And I can't remember who it was, but they were talking with someone, and I want to say he was a singer or a rapper, but he went there and they said, we need these hats sold and we'll give you a percentage of it. And he says, here's what we'll do. I'm going to go out and do what goodness, frog in my throat. I'm going to go out and do what I do. And by doing that, you don't have to pay me anything until you hit the $10,000 mark. Once you hit the $10,000 mark, I get 10% off the top of that for all the rest of the sales. And they're just like, wow, that's a really good deal. Makes you guaranteed 100K and then everything else after that. And so what he did was he got the hats, went out into the community and started giving it to the singers, starting giving it to the rappers and the people who knew it. And then you'd see in photo shoots that they'd be wearing the hat because it was a nice, clean brand, very durable, nice hats. And so you start seeing these Von Dutch hats come up. The first year, they made 150K. Second year, it was 300 to 400. Third year, they were at 600 to 700K. And it's just, it goes back to the thing of you start with what you have. When it comes to starting up, do what you can with the things that you have. For individuals who are like I don't know why I'm bringing up this example, but starting as influencers in the space, you don't need a really nice camera. You don't need a really nice microphone. You don't need a background that has a bunch of lights and a bunch of small figurines to make you look cool. You just start with what you have. When I started my other podcast way back, I guess not way back, it was like a year and a half ago. I started with literally grabbing my phone and just recording like this. And now that one is like 150 episodes later. So really it comes down to just start with what you have. And when you start with what you have, then you can start adding the sprinkles and fluff. But just lean startup, start with what you have.
Yeah, and that's really the secret. What is it you're really doing, and what do you really need to do that? So throwing out more examples, of course, music industry takes so much to get into the music industry. The $1 million recording studios and producers and the distribution and the record labels you need. But one of the most influential and, my opinion, one of the greatest musicians ever was Bob Marley. He started with a guitar and a tape player in the trunk of his car, and he recorded cassette tapes of his music and drove out in his car and popped the trunk and sold cassette tapes out of his trunk. What do you need to be a musician? Well, you need an instrument, something to record with. That's it. That you don't need anything else. The minimum viable product. He may have dreamed about being on beach towels with his face and logo and having the One Love brand of energy drinks, which are unpaid endorsement. They're pretty good if you try those. He's got, of course, he's passed away, and his estate now has, audio equipment and probably some bongs with his logo on them as well. We won't encourage those, but he's become an icon. He's become a force of nature in the business marketing world, in people's lives. But he started out with a guitar and a voice and a tape recorder. And that's what it took. Now, could that happen today? I'm going to say yes, because there's no reason it couldn't happen today. There's no reason that hard work and working your way up to dive bars and getting heard and bigger and bigger and bigger couldn't work. Even though that may not be the norm today.
Yeah.
When we look at our business, what do we really need to have? And can we start with that? Let's get rid of the fluff. And I think that focusing on the core does a couple of things. One, it gets us off our butt and gets us to actually do something. The best idea won't earn you any money if it never leaves your head and doesn't make it to the pavement. And two, it reminds you of what you're really there to do. What is it that it gets me excited. The more I pare it down, it reminds me of my purpose in this business, in what I'm doing. And it brings a clarity to everything else going on by saying, what is the one thing we do and how do we do that one thing? So yeah, what are your thoughts?
I love this because it can help any day struggling entrepreneur take a step back. And I mean, in one of our virtual roundtables, I think last night, some of the advice given to some of our members who are overwhelmed, right, were take a step back, like breathe in the fresh air, like release yourself of responsibility. Sorry, Willie, if I'm taking your counsel, but it was awesome. Like it was really just a great reminder that, hey, look, you're overcomplicating things. Just take a look. I have two examples. Number one is, um, I'll come back to the first example in just a second, because I always talk about being a scientist mindset and wearing the proverbial lab coat of entrepreneurship. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But in the Lean Startup, he talks about MVP, the most viable product, right? Which is
minimum viable product.
Minimum. You're right. Minimum, most minimum. I was looking for least viable product, so that's wrong as well. MVP, minimum viable product. But you use a method called build, measure, learn. It's called a feedback loop. In science, build, measure, and learn is essentially creating the system, measuring its capacities by testing it, and then learn is learn from it. What are the results produced? How do we tweak that? So that build, measure, learn method is one way that you can enhance your growth. I hear Malcolm Gladwell in my ear right now. It's like 10,000 hour rule, right? He talks about all the greatest examples of the greats. And those are the examples that we've been giving thus far, as the greats, the ones that are most known. And it comes from, Google. It was a tiny, tiny computer with probably 10 or 15 different functionalities. That's it. No smarter than a desktop calculator is better than what the computers used to be back in the day. And I just learned that 1993 was when the internet was born, right? Anyways, my story is, I have a picture or a poster of Albert Einstein in my office, and it's kind of a funky, like almost like Bob Marley painted it. It's got some really cool photos and in colors and images. Anyway, I love it because it reminds me of the inner scientist within. And when you take emotion out of things, but you focus on this build, measure, and learn process methodology, now you can take a look at it and just say, okay, I'm going to put on the proverbial white coat of science behind my product, and everything's testing. Now, I get it. Some of us don't have the money. Some of us don't have the resources or the time to be able to sit through a full-blown experiment and see if it wins or fails. I get that. But welcome to entrepreneurship. Everything's going to fail unless you find a way to learn fast. Going back to my original thought, if you fall, learn to fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. I keep repeating Les Brown in this, and I love that quote. So my point is, consider yourselves now, I've dubbed these scientists, okay? Think that way. You are now scientists. Put on the lab coat and take a look at every little thing and start testing your successes. Because if you're only focused on just what needs to get done, you're going to only get done what needs to get done. But if you test results, you're going to find the little nooks and crannies that truly create the 1,000 attempts that create the light bulb. And if you do that, you will truly create the light. You'll have many light bulb moments, and there is a way to lean startup.
It reminds me of the reason why, at least I think the reason why they have generals in college. It's to test. It is to gain experience. It is to dip your toe in so many industries. Like, why does a marketing student need to go to biology? They don't. But when you go through generals, you are dipping the toe of experience. I don't know why I'm bringing up feet. You're getting into the realms of just trying things out, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, what sticks, what doesn't. And just like John was saying, you just start doing it. You do things more than what you're capable of doing, but still within the realm of what you have. I think about this, and I anyone who knows me, we can go through lessons on lessons on lessons, but unless there's like a way to apply it, it doesn't stick as well. And so I'm thinking about like the way, like, how do we get this to stick if I were listening to this as an awesome champion listener? And I think of how can we apply this to the things that we've done? And so I'm actually going to ask that question to both of you. I'll answer first, but the question is, what are jobs and what are opportunities that we've had, and how do we start it up? If that question's still fuzzy, I'll give you these examples with it. So if you are starting up a speaking career, how do you start a speaking career? Grab a freaking phone and hit record. That's all. That's all you got to do, because you got social media that you can post it on. You have Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you start it with a podcast, you can be on physical stages, virtual stages. It's just get in front of a camera or hit the record button on the audio. That is how you start your speaker journey with the things that you have. Another example is lawn care. I know we're jumping from one realm to the other. With lawn care, how do you start a lawn care business? Well, I'm going to assume that you have this lawnmower that you're able to do. You grab the lawnmower, you walk it to the house next to you, you knock on the door and ask them if they need their lawn mowed. If they don't, you walk to the next door with your lawnmower and you keep going until someone needs their lawn mowed. To which then you mow their lawn and you get paid for it. And then you just keep going, and then you start adding, oh, I can also edge. Oh, I can also aerate and fertilize. And like you start adding these different things on, and that's how you start building up from where you are, right? So whatever business that you're going through, and I love to hear John and Ian's examples as well. Whatever it is, whether it's being a speaker or lawn care, you start from where you are. So John, Ian, do either of you have more examples of how people can start up their business?
Yeah. I have another example, and it's going to overlap a lot with your concept there, but I was thinking of this before you started this topic. I need to learn more about Lance Armstrong because I use him as an example in a lot of things. But without really studying his background, tell me if this sounds right for how he became arguably or unarguably the greatest cyclist we have. My guess is he studied nutrition and went to the gym and exercised and built up his strength, his aerobic abilities, his mental mindset. He booked his place in the Tour de France. Then he decided to hop on a bicycle. Does that sound right? No, my guess is he got on a bicycle and said, hey, I like this. I can do this, and built from there. If you want to be a world-class speaker, probably your first step would be to book a spot to speak at the Oscars. After that, you should buy a microphone. What is that minimum? Where do you start from? Lance Armstrong, his love is cycling. His love, he said, is not winning races. His love, his dream is not these endorsements and media articles and interviews. His love is cycling. That's what he loves to do. If you want to be a great speaker, if your love is adoration of millions of fans, maybe you need to refocus some. Your love should be speaking. Your love should be what you're doing. And then it can build from there. It turns into something else. Google did not start out by getting an office suite of products, a hosting capabilities, an advertising platform, and controlling the information of most third world nations. No, they started out, let me help you find information on the internet faster and better. That was their goal. And if we follow our goals, we follow our dreams, we work at it, it's going to grow, it's going to blossom, it's going to become as huge and incredible as we can imagine. But if we start with as huge, incredible as we can imagine, we're going to have wonderful daydreams and sleepless nights, and we're going to die poor. There's my prediction for you. So
I have lots of examples too, and I love that you brought up the lawnmower example. I mean, my brother and I used to literally hustle our neighborhood. I told him, "Hey, keep the lawnmower running. I'm going to make it a distraction while I knock on doors, so you'll already have your foot in the grass per se." And the lawnmower running, and I'll say, "Hey, we're doing lawns, $20. Can we do your lawn?" And they can't say no because we're already there. It's already fired up. They're going to tell us no by telling us to go away or to turn it off, and that can't happen. So we hustled our neighborhood, and hustle's a good word. Some people turn it into a negative. So just know that like that was a way to do it, and that was the leanest way to do it for us because we didn't have a plan. We just started knocking, and most memorably is becoming a DJ. Well, I just wanted to solve a problem, and the problem was the music at dances was terrible. It was awful. And I hated it. And my classmates at school and church were all like, "Yeah, they're not that great, but we go because we're supposed to, you know?" And I was like, "We got to fix this. Like, we should all deserve to have a good time at our proms and our dances. And hey, let's do house parties too." So I bought my own equipment, and it was simple. I mean, I did not have the fancy, turntable thing. I bought this like $100 dual iPod mixer. iPod. You stick 2 iPods in it, and then I literally just had a control: left to go to the left iPod, right to go to the right iPod, middle to transition and play 2 songs at once. Oh, okay. And then I had a TV receiver for all of our younglings listening to this. A TV receiver is like a power box that was threaded to floor-based speakers. It was just a power source, and then boom, we had floor-based speakers. I was the most unorganized, most interesting looking DJ box you could think of because it just looked like the table, 2 iPods, and then floor speakers like you're sitting down on your couch to watch the game on Sunday. Like that's what my setup looked like. But yet we put local DJs out of business, and we took over the town. We took over the churches. We started doing activities that like I don't even think I was legally of age to be able to do. I was a 17-year-old doing house parties and weddings where they were serving alcohol and all kinds of stuff, and like it just became a thing. And again, lean, just cut out the details and just do it. I'll share one last thing. I really love just the example of creating things based on what you have and then just going. We're all focused on this idea that it must be perfect. And let me tell you, it's never, ever going to be perfect. So if you're still waiting for perfect conditions, good luck. You're still going to be waiting while other people are taking action. But there's this phrase that we take, and especially when you're handling a firearm, and it's ready, aim, fire. Well, that makes sense for having a firearm because firearms are dangerous. But if we're not talking about that, and we're talking about a business that is not dangerous, why are we readying? Why are we steadying? Why are we smelling the roses? And why are we aiming? And why are we doing all of that before we fire? The best way to get results and to figure out whether it's right or wrong is to just fire. Someone told me, "Oh, no, aim, fire," or ready, fire, aim. It's like, no. Fire. Just go. Just get it done. Take action. And when you do, you'll figure it out. And that's how you start lean too. So that might be a little contradictory to what we said earlier, but it's also an option that you can take when your business is as easy as, look, you've got everything you need. You've got a phone. You've got connection to the internet. Go. Just fire. You're ready.
You've heard it here first, folks. When you're at a shooting range, fire first and then you start aiming. That comes straight, sponsored by Champion. No, I'm joking. You're right. Start ready, just fire, just to start going with it. It could be lawn care. It can be speaking. It could be coaching. You could be how do you become a financial advisor? Learn how to do finance, right? It can even be for personal goals. If you're wanting to work out and get a six pack, do a push up. If you're wanting to read 50 books a year, grab a book and start reading chapter 1. If you want to get more spiritual, then start praying, or simply take a walk in nature to connect mind and soul. If you want to be a master communicator, what do? Go outside and start saying hi to people. Like when you really break it down to what is the first step, it's so simple. It's so simple to start and begin the skill of what you're wanting to go into. But that's where so many people they get paralyzed by over-analysis. Don't worry about that. Just focus on where you're starting at, because it's the thing you start at and the daily consistency that's going to build over time. But always at the barest minimum, as we wrap up this episode, it is where you're starting and taking that baby step that's going to lead you down that road.
Yeah. So we had a pause there. So I'm going to jump in with my final thought with that as we've been talking. I'm going to go back to the Groupon example. And if your goal is to set an online platform where people can post coupons and find coupons to draw business and save people money, maybe it's just me, but raise a hand. Who thinks that a first step would be a website if you're going to build an online business for that? It wasn't. It was a paper flyer. They didn't need a website to start a business, even though it was going to be an online business. We don't need all of these things, but that's, your minimum viable product. And then you test it with your customers, your employees, yourself, and you build it and change it and grow it. But start with the bare minimum you need and see if it's going to work. Then you put in the sweat and you add the dreams, and then you get there. So start small.
I'll jump into and finish up and just say really simply, after you start small, start. Just go. Focus on the action. You'll learn as you go. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over, but expecting different results. I don't want that quote to paralyze you from action. Like literally, as you do the same thing over and over, you've got to tweak little by little. But as you do that, you'll find every little aspect of success. It's called the lean startup, not because it's saying start on a budget. It's saying the lean startup is how you use continuous innovation. And the greatest innovation is the ideas that come from the failures that lead to the successes that are literally sitting in your palms, at your fingertips, waiting for you to take action.
Well said. And with that wraps up this episode of Champion Reads. If you found inspiration in this episode, subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on the major podcasting platforms, as well as you can go to our website, mychampionscircle.com, where you'll be able to find a link to the podcast, all of our socials, and everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Till next time, champions, continue to be the best version of yourself, continue moving forward, and always remember to start small, and even more importantly, to just start. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.